and welcome back to Beating a Dead Horse. As always, I'm your host, Sean McKinda.
And I'm your host, Jackson Keller.
And we are continuing our month of Alien, much to the befuddlement of a number of people who have asked me why, in fact, we're talking about the bad Alien movies for a whole month. To which I can only respond, why the fuck not? We want to. That's all it is.
Because it let us watch Alien Resurrection, and we promised you the memes, and we're here, we're bringing you the memes this week. We are Delivering.
This movie, though, it's so weird. Last week, if you skipped our Alien 3 episode, for whatever reason, I understand Jackson has bad taste, that's a solid reason to skip that episode.
But they can't know I have bad taste until they watch it.
That's fair. Jackson has bad taste. That's the summary of last week's episode.
Alien 3 is a hidden gem, a diamond in the rough, much like Spider-Man 3. You know what? I guess they already knew I had bad taste.
However, you are wrong, because Alien 3 is a boring fucking mess of a movie and is not worth watching. That said, Alien Resurrection is literally the exact opposite of Alien 3, but is still a mess of a movie that is 100% not worth watching.
I might call it this is one of those worth watching with alcohol and friends. It's kind of a hoot, especially if you're like an Alien fan. If you're an Alien fan and you've avoided this for whatever reason because it's bad, I mean, it is bad, but it's
fucking terrible.
Just bite the bullet and watch it, because it's also a clusterfuck in the most glorious possible way. So, Alien 3 is definitely has more artistic merit, but this one might be more entertaining.
Oh my god, yeah, no. Everything that I said is wrong with Alien 3, of it just being boring, too many characters, just so much happening, so much happening and yet so little happening. It's all flipped, because in this one, they have culled it down to a nice set of characters, so you actually have some people that you can identify with.
In theory, at least.
Yeah, you have people in the movie that could theoretically be identified with, because you can identify them from each other. They're not a bunch of fucking shaved head motherfuckers who all look the exact same.
You even have some big name actors like Ron Perlman and Winona Ryder,
who are both terrible in this movie.
I was gonna say they're both really bad.
And I fucking love Ron Perlman, that really hurt me, is how much of a shithead his character is.
Ron Perlman's character is bad. I feel like as far as his performance, I could kind of tell that he was phoning it in a bit. I haven't seen Winona Ryder in that many things, so I just want to ask the good people of the internet, is she always this terrible? Because she's really a really bad actress in this.
I've seen her in Stranger Things, and I can say that I like her in Stranger Things. I watched Heathers last year sometime, which apparently she's in that. I forgot that she was in that until I was looking up her IMDb page. And I highly recommend not watching Heathers, because it's terrible in, the current climate that we live in. It's a fucking nightmare movie that you should not watch. But I don't remember disliking her in that. I don't remember thinking anything about any of the actors oh wow, they're bad at it. But I also was too concerned with the fact that, I think Christian Slater plays opposite her, and at one point he just pulls a gun in school, and they play it for laughs, and I'm like, yo, fuck that. No.
Ooh. We were actually just talking about this, me and my coworkers. I made them feel very old, because I have not really lived in a pre-Columbine world, and they have.
Yeah, I understand why it might have worked at one point, but it doesn't anymore. So that was Heather's watch.
Yeah, there's our mini review of Heather's. I've never seen it. But you know what I have seen? Speaking of bad acting, everyone's incredibly goofy fucking faces. I don't know what's wrong with people in this movie. They're constantly going bug-eyed and twitching for no reason at all, and making weird cartoon faces, particularly the general character, who has the hairiest shoulders of any man I've ever seen. It's bat fuck crazy. I don't know why they do this, especially like, all right, I've got another Metal Gear related bounty, much like our Santa Claus Conquers the Martians episode. So I laughed hysterically. I mean, I guess spoilers, but it's not a spoiler in a fucking Alien movie to say that the big evil corporate general guy dies. So when the aliens are getting out,
so that's even first act.
Yeah,
so, like,
I mean, like, if it's an alien movie, there's gonna be aliens amuck at some point. So the Marines are all like abandoning ship, and one of them gets killed by an alien, and the general like salutes him and makes like a weird face, and then he like pulls out a piece of his own brain after an alien eats him from behind. Which I guess, side note, like the gore in this movie is pretty fucking great.
Yeah, like the gore works.
Much more viscerally entertaining than Alien 3. Not scary, but very, very entertaining. And so, like, all I could think about during this whole sequence of Marine men getting swiftly killed in a comical fashion, like with the playing golf with the grenade and the alien in the space pod. I want someone to set the song from Ground Zeroes, the Here's to You, Nicola and Bart song, over that scene, because that's all I could think about when he was saluting. So, make it happen, people. That's my Metal Gear related bounty for this week.
One of these days we're going to have to come up with, like, some sort of reward for this, because you just keep putting out Metal Gear bounties, and, like, I don't know what to do with it.
Your reward is praise and recognition from us, your gods, your hosts of Beating a Dead Horse.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we will acknowledge you on the podcast. We will shout out whatever fucking social media you want us to.
Hook us up with your SoundCloud. We'll get your rap career off the ground.
Yeah, we'll link whatever you need. So, like, just, you know, satisfy Jackson's needs first.
Yeah, you know, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. So, do that, and then don't watch Alien Resurrection, because I really hated it. But like, as I said, though, it's so wildly different from Alien 3, because it is, like, it's quippy, and it's bizarre, and like the best way I can describe it is if like you took Joss Whedon and then put him in charge of a Resident Evil movie. Like, that is what this movie is in almost every way, and it is terrible for it.
I would like to add, I mean, honestly, you can get a sense for what the movie's like just by looking at the people involved with the direction, with the like production, because Joss Whedon wrote it. And some French art house director who apparently didn't speak that much English directed it. And so the result is exactly what you'd expect. Like an awkward mess of quips on one hand, and like this weird art house, like sexually charged,
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about the sexualness of this.
Yeah,
like, it is not good.
It's exactly what you would think from a Joss Whedon alien French art house film.
And yet it's not, though, because like the whole Alien franchise is about sexual assault, and like this one thankfully doesn't have a sexual assault in it. Looking at you, Alien 3.
That's probably the smartest decision they made. Is like they stayed away from the trauma metaphor because it's far too stupid to handle it, and it goes for something else entirely, which it also handles stupidly.
I'd say instead we get like this mother metaphor, which is not even a metaphor, it's just like a stated thing and doesn't make any sense.
You get lots of membranes, you get a lot of emerging from membranes, you get a nice live birth, you get a lot with this movie.
Yeah, it's one of those that thinks it's very clever, but it is not.
It's you know what's funny? I don't know how true this is because like I haven't read the script and I haven't seen like the actual quotes, but apparently Joss Whedon likes to shift the blame for this movie kind of onto the directors and the production and say that it's not really indicative of the script that he wrote. But people have read the script and it's apparently almost identical.
I was gonna say, like, I watched enough Joss Whedon stuff. Like, I've watched a vast majority of Buffy. I've watched the entirety of Firefly. I've watched, enough Avengers and stuff like that. And, like, I wouldn't call myself a Joss Whedon defender, because I like a lot of his stuff. He is, hashtag problematic and whatnot. But I think, like, Firefly is a very good show. Buffy has a lot of merit behind it.
I mean, he wrote Toy Story. He's very talented, certainly. At least has the potential to, like, he has made very good things.
But this movie has his fingers all fucking
yes,
over
it does. Like, so, I mean, do we just want to call it spoilers? Because literally, who cares?
Yeah, might as well.
So, because the thing is that the way that this is set up, I think one of the reasons that it feels so weird and different tonally is that it's basically a soft reboot for a reboot that didn't happen, because then they did the Prometheus thing and, like, AVP after this and just, completely left this in the dust as the absolute failure that it was. But for me, like, the indicative scene is one that I actually, like, remember, probably the only scene from when I watched this as a kid that really stuck out to me. There were two. There was, like, the aliens swimming around in the water, and there was the scene where Solid Ripley finds the rest of her failed clones, and the one is, like, on the table, like, begging her to kill her. And it's this, like, pretty dramatic scene. Like, the whole clone Ripley so we can get the baby alien, but why would the baby alien DNA be in Ripley's DNA? If they already had the baby alien's DNA, couldn't they just harvest the alien DNA? But, whatever, it's a fucking movie.
That's the type of stuff that, like, who fucking cares? Like, just get along for the ride with that. Like, it's a glaring plot hole, but also, who cares about plot holes?
I guess my only My only point with that is that it feels to be kind of like an inherently stupid premise, and lo and behold, it plays out very stupidly.
Yeah.
But but this is the premise we got, and to its credit, like, the movie in this one scene actually plays it pretty well for drama, as Ripley, like, confronts what a monstrosity she is. And then immediately after, Ron Perlman's character, like, after this, like, emotional moment where she, like, burns all these clones in sadness and rage and, like, confronts the horror of existence, of being not of this world, and just goes, women, right? Winks to the camera. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here?
It's absurd. And, like, even before that, because this is the part that jumped out to me, because, like, I was already like, all right, the subtle misogyny of Joss Whedon, has crept into the movie at this point, and I'm like, fucking whatever. But before that, she's handed a flamethrower, and when she lights it, there's a quick little and I don't know whether it was added in post. I don't know whether it's the actual sound effect that the fucking flamethrower makes, but no matter what, it should not have been there. Like, if they needed to edit it out, if they needed to put in a different sound effect, whatever the fuck they needed to do, it literally sounded like the type of thing that you get in, like, a cartoon where they go to blow up the dynamite and, like, the flame goes all the way down the line and it's supposed to explode, just a little whiff. Like, that's what it fucking was. And I wasn't expecting the flamethrower to work after that. It was absurd.
Just a little toot from the flamethrower. Just give it a little toot of its own horror.
Yeah, like, who decided that was okay? Who put that in there?
Completely undercut an otherwise dramatic scene, and then you have Joss Whedon's terrible quip. And also, I will say, I guess since we have some Alien production trivia, last time, I have one here as well. So in that scene where Bio Ripley is, going Ultra Instinct with the basketball, she makes that, like, toss it behind her head and swish without even looking at it. Yeah.
Yes.
So that scene, that is actually Sigourney Weaver making that shot. And she had tried like 50 takes of it, and they were about to give up for the day. And she finally made it. And if you notice, like, it cuts away pretty quickly after she makes the shot. That's because literally everyone in the room when she made it was losing their fucking minds. Like,
Oh my god, good, because I lost my fucking mind when that happened.
I mean, because now that I'm thinking about it, I remember that scene too. There are a lot of memorable scenes. There's the aliens, like, killing the other alien to break it out of jail. There's him training it like a dog with, like, the nitroglycerin. Oh my god, the best kill, if we're talking about deaths, the most absurd one, but also gloriously metal, was, like, with the caricature evil scientist, when the screaming nerd with the chest burster in him, and like, they find this random guy who pretty much only
screaming nerd.
Well, I say that because that's like.
Oh my god! I hope that was like the fucking his name in the script.
Because he had no other purpose.
And I'm auditioning for the role of screaming nerd.
Because he served no other purpose. They just kept him around only for this. Like, they basically completely forget about him otherwise, in that he just, like, goes completely apeshit on the mad scientist. And then when he's ready to get chest bursted, he grabs his head, sticks it right in front of his chest, and the chest burster gets a double kill on him. It's amazing. Goes right through his face.
The problem is the setup to that, though. Because, like, inexplicably, this is the only character, even in the fucking AVP series, where, like, he goes nuts before his chest bursts. Like, it seems like the alien has taken control of him and is looking to kill this guy before it bursts for some reason that's not adequately explained. Instead, it's apparently just this dude losing his goddamn mind beforehand. I don't get it. Why did he do that? Why did he do that, though?
To create an awesome gory kill for our main villain.
Like, it's great, but, like, he freaks out, and, like, I swear to God, he was about to start biting him if he didn't actually start biting him.
No, he goes completely nuts. I think he did bite him. I can't remember now, but that feels true to me. Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's off the wall. It's madness. And then there's, I mean, like, you can just say everything about this movie by going, and then there's this, and then there's that, which is both, like, to its credit, because that means a lot of entertaining, funny shit happens, but also to its detriment, because it's all nonsense. And
once again, a lot happens, but nothing happens. Unlike Alien 3, where nothing happens, but a lot happens.
It really is the complete opposite. And, yeah, I guess I just want to talk about Solid Ripley for a minute here, because her character is extremely confusing to me. And so she's like, you know, again, stupid premise, they clone her to get the alien out of her, but she's also, like, part alien now, you know, whatever. That's the dualidine of man, right. So half the time, it seems like Ripley is very much, like, on the alien side. Like, she's like, yeah, I'm part alien, I'm their mom, like, hell yeah, like, I don't give a fuck, I'm Gazorpazorp fucking Field, bitch. Like, that's her attitude, like, half the time. And then the other half of the time, she, like, has these moments where, like, this particularly comes up with Winona Ryder's character, who of course turns out to be a robot, because it's an alien movie and you have to have a fucking robot.
You gotta have a replicant. If you don't have a replicant, it's a bad movie. There's a joke there about, like, replicant have a movie. There it is. You replicant have a movie without a replicant.
There you go. You did it. You found it. Good boy, Sean.
It took me a little bit to get there, but we got there.
So yeah, Winona Ryder's a ghost because there's always a ghost. And so, like, her character arc is very, like, I wouldn't even call it an arc. It's just, like, very half-baked Blade Runner. Like, oh man, woe is me. Like, you don't understand what it feels like. How do you cope with being such a monster? Like, everyone hates me. They call me the toaster oven. Like, wah. And it's just so... I swear, man, something about fucking robots in movies. Like, Did Chappie break me? Is it just every time I see a robot in a movie, do I just immediately think of Chappie and get angry? I don't know what it is, but I can't help but roll my eyes when this shit comes up in movies anymore. It's like my biggest pet peeve.
I mean, I think the biggest thing with this one is that it's so... Like, it comes out of nowhere, is about the most boring thing it could possibly be, and then returns to the ether from which it comes.
Yes. It's like there to give Ripley and Winona Ryder some lesbian subtext that otherwise wouldn't exist. And it's not interesting at all. And in this scene, clone Ripley is like, you can find your own name and your own future. And does the like thing where your past, what you are, doesn't define you. We're still moral beings, like yada yada, whatever. But then why is she acting like such a fucking psychopath? And it's not even like a character development thing. It's not even like she acts this way because she's confronted by the other clones. She just switches back and forth from scene to scene, whatever she needs to be in a given moment.
But it's deep because it shows the duality of her nature, because she's part alien, part human. It's all in the service of the grander theme of...
the grand theme of motherhood.
It doesn't play into motherhood.
Yeah,
though.
well, see, So Alien Resurrection might be the most compressed generational saga there's ever been in fiction. So you have Ellen Ripley, you have the original character who dies at the end of Alien 3.
Do not steal.
Yeah. And then you have solid Ripley 8, the clone created. But in order to create Ripley 8, they do that to get an alien, and this alien of course is the queen that would have been born from the original Ripley, so they make more. But that queen, since not only did Ripley get alien DNA, the alien got human DNA. So infamously, we get the newborn, we get the big titty human alien with the sad puppy dog eyes. And it's hilarious. Does
the human alien have breasts?
Yes, it does.
Oh my god, I totally missed it. What?
No, it totally does. Got pronounced nips and everything.
No, it fucking does
yes,
not.
Yes, it does. Yes,
How
it
did
does.
I miss this?
They're not super pronounced. They're just like little lumps, but you can totally see them. It's great. And absolutely, it's like you look at the newborn and you're kind of wondering, just because it's such like a schlocky, awkward film, that it's just like a Joss Whedon Resident Evil movie, and you're like, I thought this was directed by a weird French guy. I wonder, there he is. Hi, Mr. Frenchman. Hi, Mr. Art House Director. I was wondering when we'd find you. And you know what? The newborn is wacky, gets wild. It kills the alien queen, and then gives Ripley the sad puppy dog eyes, and then Ripley gets... this is a cool shot, as he mentioned in our pre-discussion, when she sinks into like the nest of aliens, and immediately after she gets carried in another alien's arms like a sleeping princess. Oh, it's so good. And then the newborn is born, and she nuzzles it, and then hilariously kills it by using some of her acid blood to open a window in space so it gets sucked through a little peephole and shredded by the vacuum of space.
And whimpers the entire time.
Yeah, they like look at each other, and like Ripley's got like tears in her eyes. So like, is she, I don't get it. Is she sympathetic to them or not? Is she...
A mother is always sympathetic to their children, even if they are horrifying monsters.
Even if they're her grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the shortest Joestar lineage in whatever amount of run, like 2-hour runtime this movie had. That was the other merciful thing, is that it was half an hour shorter, which made it a lot.
I was
a lot
so
more fun.
happy. Like, it was not 2 hours and 40 fucking minutes long. I will say, I just, as a quick aside, I did, bearing in mind that I did not see the alien booby, I did like the design of the little alien, like the alien son.
So like the newborn is the kind of thing that's like so out there and weird and like such a bizarre choice to make.
It's like Eraserhead-ish.
Yeah, you kind of can't help but love it. Like you know, it's not the Requiem.
Yeah. Like, it's an interesting design. It's, like, different enough from the original Alien that you could tell it apart. Like, it's kind of creepy. The eyes, as unsettling as they are, work as unsettling. Like, I dug the design, and, like, I could see what they had an idea with it was. So, like, I was kind of into it. But, like, not enough.
It's like... Again, it's so weird because otherwise this is a pretty straightforward schlocky. Like you know, Sean, you mentioned Resident Evil, very Resident Evil.
Oh my god, it's so Resident Evil.
I mean, like Ripley is basically Alice in this. She has like the Ultra Instinct powers. She's like a clone with some DNA of the things that she fights.
There was one or two shots where I'm like, oh my god, that looks just like Mia Jovovich.
Yeah. And also, I couldn't help but notice it this time that Ripley's vest that she wears looks exactly like the one Solid Snake wears in MGS1.
Oh my god, what is with this movie and Metal Gear Solid and you?
Because it's about clones, and that's where my mind goes when it's about clones.
Alien Resurrection, Metal Gear Solid, and Jackson, Your Changing Body.
Yeah, so then they look to Earth for a promising new future. Ron Perlman, all the really distinctive characters are still alive. Ron Perlman and the wheelchair guy who gets shit on by Ron Perlman for being in a wheelchair.
They treat this poor guy, so badly in this movie. Like, it is uncomfortable how badly they treat this guy.
Yeah, and it's like... So I will say, I think that the device of having the dreadlock leader guy carry him on his back, I think that works well as like a tense scene, because, you know, he's kind of helpless.
It was cool because they were like working together and they showed that they actually cared about this guy.
Yeah. Also, like, the side note, the dreadlock guy was probably my favorite character. He just acted like a real chill guy through most of it, and immediately, like, took control and had his hilariously stupid Assassin's Creed hidden blade guns on him.
And, like, he cared about people.
Yeah, this is a band of,
and he also knew how to reflect bullets.
Yeah, I forgot about that shot. That was awesome. That was so fucking ridiculous. Oh, okay. Here's something that's really distracting, though. If you are a fan of Breaking Bad, there's like a military guy who joins up with them, who helps them out, who's like not really that important of a character. Like, he's just there to be like the military
That dude
guy.
showed up out of middle of fucking nowhere, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. And he jumped out really hard at me because he was Tuco from Breaking Bad. It was the same actor, except a lot younger. So he's not really an important character, but like it's incredibly distracting because he's got like a really big famous role in like a highly acclaimed show. It's just one of those funny little things.
I think the gruff voice guy, Elgin, is in Westworld right now, actually.
Is he?
Yeah, because he sounded really familiar. Despite the fact that I couldn't help but cackle at the fact that his gruff voice was so ridiculous.
Oh my god.
How do you show that he's mad and like a really hard and grizzled man? How you guys doing? Do you take whiskey? Abso-fucking-lutely, I do.
The whiskey cube. Did you think that was hilarious? Because I did.
I was actually kind of more marveling at how they did that shot. Like, I wasn't thinking too much about, like, how ridiculous it was, as much as, like, oh, that was kind of cool that they managed to make it do that.
It was a neat effect, for sure. I just couldn't help but laugh at, like, this instant, like, curry powder whiskey cube.
Oh my god, curry whiskey, TM.
I didn't. It's just one of those things. Like, I guess that's what's fun about like sci-fi. But would that have like a practical purpose in space to compress your whiskey into a cube?
Especially because it didn't actually look that compressed. Like, it looked bigger as a solid than as a liquid.
Right.
Which, yes, I understand how physics works. I know that if you freeze a liquid, it's bigger. But for space travel, what's the point?
I mean, I guess like you don't need a bottle. You don't have glass. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, like I don't understand. But we're also harping on like a fucking whiskey cube.
I mean, it's just such a weird little detail. Like, they could have just been drinking whiskey. Well, honestly, I think it stuck out to me so much just because, like, it really shows, like, how completely off the fucking rails we've gone. Because every Alien movie up until this point is pretty grounded. It's, like, it's not a, like, realistic vision of the future per se, just because, like, obviously they couldn't comprehend like what kind of technology we even have now, but it feels very down to earth, very much like this could be a real universe, you know. And now we have clones and Ripley with the acid blood and the newborn and the whiskey cube and all this other insanity, and like that semblance of grounded grittiness is gone, which I suppose is to the movie's benefit. Like, if they had tried to make a serious movie about resurrecting the clone Ripley, it would have been even worse than it already is.
Like, honestly, it feels very much like a proto-Firefly, which I haven't said that to you because I know you haven't seen Firefly, so you wouldn't necessarily have that frame of reference. But, like, it has that kind of Firefly vibe to it. It has a little bit of like a Battlestar Galactica element to it as well. Like, I'm clearly pretty big into like the sci-fi space journey genre.
Yeah.
So like it feels very much like that, but it also kind of feels like that, and then they just kind of throw that away in favor of just going back to an Alien movie.
Yeah, well, because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot more like background in this, with like where Ron Perlman implies that like Earth is shitty, and
if you watch the extended edition, you can see Earth.
I do remember. I actually was wondering if that scene, like if I had watched the extended edition as a kid, because I remember seeing like the Eiffel Tower ruined or something.
Yeah, I went back because I was looking up what version of this we should watch, because that just out of curiosity, and they're like, just watch the regular version. The extended version doesn't really add anything. But I saw that like it adds this ruined shot of Earth. So I actually, after I finished the movie, switched over to the extended version just to see what like they envision Earth to look like. It raised way more questions than it's worth. Don't watch it.
No, I'm glad this was mercifully shorter. And yeah, but like there's so much more of like these like space opera-y kind of elements, and they're like, just kidding, have some aliens.
And a fart noise from a flamethrower.
A fart noise from a flamethrower. Ron Perlman being the biggest dick in the galaxy. I mean,
sexy Ripley. We gotta talk about like the weird sexualization.
Yeah.
Of this movie.
Yes. Let's. Why don't you start on this one?
Because I have no idea where to begin. So I guess I mean I was gonna say let's start with the foot scene, but I think we need to start before that.
Yes.
Because like the first time that I noticed, I'm like, ooh, it's weirdly sexy, and like that felt kind of Whedon-y in general. Was when we see Ripley like emerging from her clone cocoon. Because I'm like, she's naked. Like that's feels very weird for a Ripley thing. Like I'm not used to, for whatever reason, it just jumped out at me as like, why is she naked? That doesn't feel like a thing that they would have Ripley do. Like, this feels very sexy. Like, the way she's, like, kind of clawing at it and coyly hiding her body felt very sexualized, and it was very weird.
What was weirder to me about that scene was less that she was just naked, because that's a pretty standard, like, cloning device.
Yeah.
But that the way that they shot it, not just that it was, like, trying to be sexy, but it was also clearly like a rebirthing metaphor. So now we're having a sexy birth, which is very...
a fetish.
I mean, that is a fetish, you know? I was about to say very unsexy, but I'm sure it's very sexy to many people. So I guess I'll withhold my kink shaming for today.
Congrats for awakening something in some people. So yeah, like that kind of really sets the table for like how this is gonna go. And from there, it gets weirder because we get to the foot fetish scene where we get this woman who is very into something. And I'm kind of looking at this like, ooh, I don't really want to see sex in my Alien movies. That makes me deeply uncomfortable like it did in Alien 3. Because like this acknowledgement of sex within a whole sexual assault metaphor is just uncomfortable and kind of weird. And so like I was already kind of like, ooh, I'm not feeling this. And then it pulls back and it's just Gruff Elgin rubbing his girlfriend wife's feet, which like that's great. You know what? They're into it. They're having a grand old time. It's wildly out of place in this fucking movie.
It just arrives and it just looks like they're having sex, and then you just realize that he's just rubbing her feet, and it never... those characters barely matter. And why? And it's very confusing.
There's no point to it in the context of the movie. It just happens, and then it moves on. Like, it's not like some buildup of tension and release or anything. It's not, doubled back on. It's not like, honest to God, even if at some point they're like, oh, look, the alien grabbed her feet and it's all, like, ticklish or some shit. The alien actually did grab her by the ankle, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
Is that supposed to be some sort of weird Oh, God, it does tie into sexual assault.
God, and I said that wouldn't come up this time. I lied to you all. Fuck.
We're moving past that. That's skeevy and gross. I don't like it. We're not talking about that.
Well,
yeah, I'm actually kind of revolted in that way.
I'd say I'm glad we figured out the point, but I am not.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'm honest to God, I am actually like cringing in my seat. I feel gross. I need to take a shower.
So then
let's transition to the clone actually, because I want to talk about, if we're talking about sexy things, I want to talk about the clones.
Yes.
Who are also kind of weirdly sexy, and like once again, alien movies don't really have like nudity in them, and so like for half the clones to be able to see like clearly rubber breasts is very weird. Like it felt very out of place, like they should be covered like Ripley was in the entirety of the first one, or almost anyone else.
See, I thought with the clones, I thought it was appropriate for the clones to be like that, because that's the whole design of the alien in general, is that it's basically a giant monster phallus. And I think that sort of terror, the like terrorizing of sexuality, and the fact that like these are a bunch of horrific like monstrosities with a lot of alien DNA in them, that feels more appropriate to me. And
you are giving this movie way too much credit.
I mean, no doubt. But that's still in line with the whole ethos of Alien, I feel.
And I mean, as much as it is, I feel like just not necessarily like having them being like completely covered or anything like that, but just like the fucking, say, like Fifth Element band across the chest or something, I feel like would have done enough to both, show the vulnerability of nudity, but also keep it in that tasteful way that Alien has done up to this point.
Well, now I'm just remembering that since the director was French, barely spoke English, presumably like just lived in France his entire life, I know that like in media, like nudity's way less of a taboo there. So I think that was another result of like, because that scene has like art house director hands all over it, and I think that's just kind of a byproduct.
For sure. But like this goes back to like the whole argument that we had last time of like I feel like even if you've got a new director doing new things with it, like you should keep at least some of the motifs or at least some of the, like the ideas of the previous movies. Like even Alien 3 for as being wildly different from the others in terms of ideas and like counteracting the aliens themes, still kept the idea of like we never see her naked, there's not that gratuitous nudity to it, and like there's ample opportunity for it too, because at one point she is assaulted, and at another point she wakes up from having sex with the doctor guy. So like there's opportunity for it to occur, but they still smartly opted not to.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess I just still feel like having that this particular instance, because I agree in a lot of the other weirdly sexual stuff. Like I was thinking in particular of the scene where like Ron Perlman is hitting on Ripley, and they're weirdly sexual.
Scene? I believe you mean scenes.
Multiple scenes, but the like Ultra Instinct basketball one in particular. Like, I don't know what the fuck was going on with that, and, like, why that was a thing. If it was supposed to be, like, a hell yeah, girl, show-up moment, it failed miserably. It was just weird and awkward and uncomfortable. But, since the whole, again, like, the fact that a xenomorph is a monster sex organ, I think that having the clones be kind of sexualized, but also horrifying, I think still... I don't know. I don't think it's a betrayal of like the through line of the series in this particular instance.
I mean, maybe not. I think it specifically comes to a head with the one that can kind of talk. I thought was where it was the most jarringly strange. Like I would argue that maybe the ones in the tank I could give a pass to, but like she even goes out of her way to cover the clone a little bit at one point. So I don't know.
Well, I guess thinking about it again, because I forgot about that little gesture. But I think I don't know. I think that's a nice gesture, and I mean, like again, I think this is like dramatically the most effective scene in the movie and the closest thing to artistic merit that the movie has. And I think that in that one scene, by having that gesture of, like, covering her up, I think that the, like, solid Ripley is acknowledging, like, that before she kills her and takes her out of her pain, that, like, yes, this is still a person, a tragic person who deserves a little bit of dignity before she's taken out of this cruel world. So, I don't know, I feel like with that, because I forgot about that gesture of covering her up, so I think that's a nice little humanizing move on the part of the eighth clone to do that.
That's fair. I think it really just boils down to is I'm just kind of uncomfortable with the idea of nudity in the alien mythos in general. Like it just feels a little out of place as a whole. So
I'm curious to see what you're gonna think about Prometheus then.
Oh no.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I totally, that particular scene aside, I totally agree. There is a lot of weird, like, and it's weird because, like, I can tell when it's Joss Whedon, like, that fucking basketball scene totally has Joss Whedon's, like, sticky fingers all over it. And, so, but then, like, some of the other scenes... Like the foot fetish scene, like that feels like Mr. Frenchman director, who I feel bad for just calling him French director, but I can't remember his name. I keep wanting to call him Denis Villeneuve, and he's not.
I want to say it's like Jean-Paul Perrault or something.
Yeah,
like that.
that's it. Something along those lines. Jean-Paul Perrault sounds right. And I guess he has also made some like
Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
I'm not familiar with his other films, although I guess that some of them are actually like good, well-acclaimed like art movies.
He did Amelie, which is apparently very good.
Oh, did he do Amelie? Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean that's interesting. They choose very interesting directors, at least for these first four. And I feel like with Alien 3 and this movie in particular, Like, I would have wanted to see, like, if we're trying to make, like, an artistic sequel, an artistic entry in the Alien franchise, I mean, you know, we ended up with schlock, mostly because Joss Whedon wrote a stupid script. And that's fine. I mean, it's probably better than trying to make weird French art house Alien and falling on its face. But I kind of want to see that movie still.
You know, the more you're saying it, the more I'm kind of like, you know what, though? Yeah, give it to me.
Yeah, like, that feels, especially if you're going to kind of distance it from the first three anyway. Like, that could be... That could be a way of, like, making Alien kind of scary again. Because we talked about that a little bit in the previous episodes about Aliens and Alien 3. And that, you know, the big problem with Alien 3 is that the alien is no longer scary. Even though they go back to, like, having a single vulnerable, like a bunch of vulnerable people in with a single unstoppable alien, it still didn't have the same effect as the first one just because we kind of knew what the tricks were. But if we're having this, like, you know... And
they just reused the tricks, to be perfectly honest.
Yes. But if we're having these, like, horrific Cronenbergian, Lynchian, you know, monsters like the Newborn and kind of running with it in that direction, like, that could make a sequel that continues on the ideas of Alien, but kind of does its own thing as well, instead of just being aliens but stupider, and also there's a weird art house Newborn at the end.
Yeah, no, like, I think, honestly, God, like, suggesting the idea of having, like, a Lynch do this I think would be really interesting.
I mean,
something with a little bit more of, like, weird art house chops, but, like, horror art house.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is that, like... You know, the Alien movies, I think I mentioned this last time, is that the conventional wisdom is that they're all the same story told by a different director, but I think there's kind of some value in that. If you get interesting enough directors, which they have, historically speaking, for these first four, it's just other forces for the, you know, third and fourth movies kind of conspired to keep those visions from really emerging. And also just, like, they paired... I mean, Joss Whedon with, like, an art house guy is possibly the worst possible pairing you could make for writer and director. Because Joss Whedon's strengths, and, you know, there are many. Like, he has made good films, he's made good scripts, but... He's a blockbuster writer.
Yes,
he has a very, like, pop art sensibility. Like, he writes blockbusters. He's good with characters who are funny, who are quippy, where the tone is generally light. So having that with, like, someone with a bit more of an experimental, like, avant-garde sensibility, like, I can see how some executive might be convinced that, like, that'll produce something special or interesting, but it just makes a mess.
And, like, honest to God, I could see it in some way, in some weird combination doing so. I don't know, this obviously is not the one to do it, but, like, I could see, like, giving a blockbuster writer paired with an art house director producing something wild, like something that I would like to see.
Yeah,
but
and I feel like for that to work, like, because you can often get a lot of great art through sort of those conflicting personalities. I think Rick and Morty is actually a great example because they've gone, like, on record in that one of the reasons that the show, like, takes so long is just because you have... As you know, as the head honchos, you have Justin Roiland and you have Dan Harmon, who are both crazy people, but in completely different ways. Because Justin Roiland is a crazy person in that he's like a ball of chaos and energy and can just improv like anything and pull something funny out of his ass at any time. Whereas Dan Harmon is very...
depressed.
He's very depressed. He's very meticulous. He likes his, you know, story circles, his structure. So you have, like, that's sort of what gives that show its unique flavor, kind of that push-pull of, like, cynical, depressed, nihilist, structuralist versus off-the-wall, high-energy, like, force of chaos. And I can see that producing a interesting result with, like, art house director versus pop writer, but I think the biggest problem with that is that it sounds like during the production of Resurrection, like, those two forces didn't work with each other particularly closely. They just took a popcorn script and gave it to an art house guy who wasn't really working with the writer very closely. So I think you're right. I think we could see something interesting based off of that, and I feel like there must surely be an example in like the history of cinema where that sort of has happened before. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is that this isn't quite writer director, but I know that the only movie that Hitchcock won an Oscar for was Rebecca, and the reason that movie turned out so differently from the rest of Hitchcock's sort of the Hitchcock film is a very well-defined typical style, and Rebecca is very much not it. And that's because the producer, David O. Selznick, was a very well-known Hollywood honcho, had to do very active in the process, wanted to do things his way. So there was a lot of push and pull between him and Hitchcock, and the result is a film that a lot of people really celebrate and it won an Oscar for. So yeah, I think those kind of conflicts can produce interesting work, but if this is Alien Resurrection.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have if any of our horselings out there have a good example of this, let us know. Because either I would be interested to watch it, or I would, just like to remember it, depending on what the situation may be. So
put that feather in your cap for movie trivia at parties.
Exactly. Yeah, get some good trivia going. I don't know. Is there anything else that you really want to talk about with this?
I mean, I think we've hit all the really ridiculous shit. The only other thing I wanted to say was that the other scientist guy making his Frankenstein speech in the birthing chamber was hysterical. Why is everyone such a fucking lunatic in this? And also that when that guy got killed by the fucking, oh god, what is it? It's not nitroglycerin, is it? The icy stuff, the stuff that makes you freeze.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was metal as shit.
In my closing, I would like to say that I really fucking loved how much of this movie was practical. I absolutely adored that. I thought it was very cool, very well done and clever in a lot of ways. I really kind of noticed that a lot of it was actual puppets or people in costumes, or it was just all actual sets and whatnot, which was wonderful. There was pretty minimal CGI, except for shots to the CGI as well, where we got multiple shots of slow bullet time going on here, and it's absurd. So I like what they did with the CGI because it was fucking stupid. But I was also just really happy that it was a lot of practical effects.
Yeah.
Because I am a snob.
Well, I mean, I think it shows because they did a lot of CGI in Alien 3, and I think visually this has aged a lot better than Alien 3 has. And
oh my god, so much better.
I mean, again, part of it is that we watched, part of that's not entirely Alien 3's fault, because, we watched the assembly cut, and there would have been some rough stuff in there. But, this one looks a lot better, and, when they did use CGI for the aliens, it was in, smart places, in the underwater scene, where it fit kind of naturally. Yeah,
the CGI kind of blurred it like you would underwater anyway.
Yeah, so visually the movie looks surprisingly good, better than I remember it.
Yeah, I was very much taken aback by how well how good it looked and how much I liked the aesthetic of it, if not the actual content.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is my actual final word, aside from a silly death, is that it's an incredibly dumb fucking movie. And it's tough for me to say, because if you're invested at all in the Alien series, you've probably already seen it, and you probably already have an opinion on it, and if it's the kind of dumb shit you'd like to sit back and point and laugh at for a while. But I guess if you're not a fan of Alien, I'm not gonna go out and recommend that people give this a second chance or anything, or go look for some hidden gem in this. I mean, it's dumb. It's really dumb.
Yeah, it's not even a type of movie that I'd necessarily recommend as a bad movie, because, I feel without the context of the rest of Alien, it just is mediocre.
Yeah, it only feels so schlocky and stupid because, the previous films up until this point have been so, I mean, Aliens is a bit more popcorn sensibility, but even it is like a dark, gritty drama compared to this. Like, it's just so out of place in the rest of the series, like both before and after.
Yeah, it's pretty wildly different. That said, I've been Sean McKinda. You can find me on Twitter at Sean_McKinda. You can also check out my website, isortof.com. Nothing has really happened there, but it's a great place where I can kind of compile all the stuff that I've done. So, like, if you want to go see where I'm Twitch streaming, like twitch.tv/Skippy, you can. This week, we're either finishing Danganronpa the night this episode goes out, or we finished it the day before and we're starting Sunless Sea tonight. So, there's that. Come hang out.
Hell yeah! And I'm Jackson Keller. You can find me over at my...
That was really excited and I was not prepared for it.
You can find my excited self on Twitter, theoretically, at Jackson J. Keller, except you can't really find me there because I'm a Twitter ghost.
Ooh. Replicant, find him there. Wrapped it up, baby.
Just say there I should. Let's end this. Let's get this over with.
As always, shouts towards the Highway Future theme song. It is Suicide Alternate Take off the album High Octane Low Expectations. As I said, they're on Spotify. Go check them out. They're wonderful. They just released a new album recently, actually. So if you want to go support them, hunt that down.
Hell yeah!
Oh my god! And as always, thanks to 25 Years Later Site for hosting our nonsense. We had a couple of episodes where we were serious and having actual conversations about things going on. And you could have been proud of putting on your site. And then you have this episode, which, I mean, we have some solid discussions. I'm not gonna lie. I think there's more discussions than memes in this episode, but also we did say some pretty fucking stupid stuff.
We promised the memes. We brought them, and we brought some out of nowhere analysis too. So be grateful to audience.
Say thank you for the content that we bring to you. And as we said, next week we're going to continue the chain of debatably bad alien movies with Prometheus, which is a pretty divisive movie from everything I've heard. So I'm very excited to get to this one. I was thinking about it after Jackson said that apparently there's nudity in that one. And I think I've decided that if it's female nudity, I'm probably not going to be thrilled with it. But if it's just dudes hanging dong, I think it thematically fits with Alien, and I'm into it.
I mean, we need more.
Don't spoil anything.
I'm not spoiling anything. I was just gonna say, I think we need to hang more dong in film in general.
I mean, yeah, that goes without saying. Just slip the dong in there more often. There's enough male gaze. We need some female gaze going on here. Come on.
Marvel, be brave. Give us that scene of Thor hanging dong that we've all wanted since the start in Avengers 4.
I mean, let's be honest. If Chris Hemsworth hung dong in this fucking movie, everyone would be up in their eyeballs. Just how fucking wonderful it is.
Literally, on that midnight release, every theater across the world would simultaneously cheer. They would scream with enjoyment.
Straight, gay, it doesn't fucking matter. Chris Hemsworth is a beautiful goddamn specimen of a human being. And, just let him hang dong. Let him hang dong.
Hashtag let Chris Hemsworth hang dong. Unite.
Let Hemsworth hang.
There we go. That's nice and snappy. And let the world be united, and if only for one brief, wonderful moment.
We need something to unite the universe at this point. Fuck, I'm so sorry. 25 years later.
I'm not.
We almost had such a solid episode, and then it ended with this fucking. Oh god. So yeah, come back next week for that. Bye. Don't you go into the ground. Don't you go.